Welcome back for another excerpt from Red Eye Stories. I am your host, Connor Gatchell. Tonight's story is called The Leap Year Man by Connor Gatchell. It was 2004 on February 29th. I was driving home from a long day at work and eager to get in my bed. To get to my neighborhood, you would have to drive through a 10-mile-long road through a forest with one house about 7 miles in that belonged to a very good friend of mine. I know that makes the neighborhood sound bad and full of animals and such, but before I bought the house, I did research, and there were no reports of any crimes in the area. And plus, because of the 10-mile road, it's very cheap. So anyway, I turned onto the road, and it was getting late, so I turned on my headlights. When I did, I saw that they were dimmer than usual. Damn it, I thought. They were dying on me. I sped up the pace to get home quicker so I could see what was wrong. But as soon as I put my foot down onto the pedal, I started to hear this tapping noise. It sounded like an impatient person waiting for something like a doctor's appointment or test results. It sounded like it was coming from the back seat, directly behind me. So I looked in the rearview mirror, and I saw a dark figure behind me, tapping its fingers on the side of the door. I screamed and shot my head behind the seat to see absolutely nothing. The tapping faded away, and I started to laugh because I realized it was all in my head. I was just tired, I thought. I turned back around to drive home. I drove for a good 4 more miles, and my lights were starting to burn out quick. I thought I wasn't going to make it home before I was in complete darkness. So I slowed down and called my friend to see if I could stop over and check the lights, and also if I could spend the night if there was nothing I could do to take it to the shop in the morning. When I finished dialing a number, I looked back to the road to see that my headlights were almost completely out. I was thinking of what I should do while it rang. Should I drive faster to make it to their house? Or should I grab the flashlight out of the glove compartment to shine through the window to illuminate the road in front of me? The phone felt like it was ringing for hours. When my friend finally picked up, it was somewhat staticky. I had to ask my friend to repeat themselves many times, even though I was doing most of the talking. Once we agreed that I could spend the night, and I hung up the phone and looked in front of me. At this point, I was about 3 more miles to house, but I drove very slowly, about 20 miles an hour to be safe. Just before the house came into view, I ran over a large bump. I've been driving on this road for 6 to 7 years, and I have never felt a bump like that. I stopped the car completely, got the flashlight out of my glove compartment, and walked outside into the cold night. I turned on the flashlight and pointed it behind the car. I saw the outline of a man lying face down on the road. "Oh my God," I said to myself. "I can't believe I just ran over a human being." When you're in this sort of situation, your first thought isn't to go dig a hole and never speak of this again. It's really, you question yourself, how did this happen? I was driving slowly, and my lights weren't completely out. I should have seen him. More importantly, he should have seen the dim lights coming from behind him, or at least heard the car coming. I started to walk over to the man to see if he was alive in any way. But that's when the most horrifying, bone-chilling event occurred. The man's fingers, in blue-palmed, orange-fingered gloves, started to tap impatiently, just like before in the car. I knew he wasn't dead, but there was no possible way that he could be alive. I looked at the tire marks, and it seemed as he was completely in sync with them. Being crushed by 2 tires, no one could have survived that, I thought. With all this going through my head, I started to back up slowly back into my car, when my heart stopped from what I saw. The figure rose from the street and stood promptly on his feet. That's when I saw his face. His face was distorted and scarred. His face had stitches shutting his eyes and his mouth. But his mouth, he was forced to have an unnatural cartoon of a smile spread across his face, almost ear to ear. I quickly turned and ran back into the car, locked the doors, and attempted to start the shitty thing. But it wouldn't start. I turned the key for the 9th or 10th time before I heard the blissful sound of the motor roar. I turned my head to the back window to see if that demon was still there, but he was gone. I started to shake. I felt a cold chill run through my body. I slowly turned my head back to the side window, a fear of seeing what that thing was there. And I was right. I screamed as the creature pressed its face and hands against the window. After that, I didn't care how dim my lights were. I stepped on the gas as hard as I could to get to my friend's house, with the flashlight burning through the window to give me light. I saw my friend standing in the doorway of his house. I ran into the arms of him and while I was shaking like a leaf, explaining everything that happened from the moment I turned onto the road, from the screeching noise I made when it was at my window. I spent the night there, trying desperately to get sleep, but I couldn't. I was so scared of seeing it against the window, or even worse, emerging from the darkness of the room. The next day, I was a little calmer. I took the car to the shop to see what happened with the lights and if anything else was wrong. But to my surprise, they told me that the car was in perfect condition and that the lights were burning brighter than ever. I didn't understand anything that happened that night. But after another year, I was finally able to find a new, affordable house in a safe neighborhood, and that was even closer to my office, and far away from that forest. Still, every leap year, I refused to get in my car. The fear of seeing that thing again. I don't know what it was. I don't know where it came from. And I don't know what it wants. I just know it's extremely dangerous.